This video contains some mature content and sensitive images. They will be shown for purposes of education and critique.
Too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. And in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
We are not having organic interactions with each other, with our friends, with our idols, with our families. It presents us with a standard that is unrealistic, a reality that is unreliable, and a world which has been filtered and altered for the benefit of another person or group, and that is the very essence of corruption.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel. In this video on Pax Tube, we'll be exploring the dark side of VTubers. But before we dive right in, we need to first set the stage. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of something called a parasocial relationship? A parasocial relationship is defined as a one-sided relationship in which one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time into another person who is completely unaware of their existence. Imagine you observe the same person every day and learn a lot about them, while on their side, they never even know who you are. These are relationships defined by a lack of personal interaction. The viewing party's mind is subtly deceived into believing that a relationship between them and the person they're viewing is more personal than it really is. This phenomenon stems from our most basic human intuitions, the desire to make friends, to socialize, and to connect with others. But parasocial relationships are but an illusion of this connection, and as such, they fail to give even the most basic fulfillment that real human relationships provide. In the past, people developed these relationships with popular celebrities, sports teams, and television stars. But with social media, the issue has become even more common and taken on new dimensions. Enter VTubers, short for virtual YouTubers or virtual streamers. This type of streamer is an individual who broadcasts online using a virtual animated persona. While relatively new to the internet, the first debuting in 2016, they've taken the online world by storm and quickly climbed to the top of social media stardom. Originating in Japan, they've rapidly spread across the world, developing variants in almost every language. The American and Japanese versions being the most popular. The history of virtual YouTubers is pretty straightforward. Motion tracking software got a lot better in the last 5 years, and this kind of thing was bound to pop up. You might have seen them before in their most common form, the anime girl, borrowing of course from the Japanese anime art style. Now, let's get into why I'm making this video. Why is this phenomenon relevant? In the past, one might be able to call VTubers a niche thing from the corners of the internet. A few years ago, that may have been true, but no longer. They're now a subject worth exploring. To demonstrate this, let's look at a few metrics. Streamers on websites like YouTube and Twitch make their money from live donations from the audience. On YouTube, these are called super chats. As of October 2021, VTubers absolutely dominate the top of the charts in super chats received. Take a look at this. Of the top 30 lifetime super chat earning channels on YouTube, 25 are VTubers. Coco, the recently retired Dragon VTuber, raked in almost 3 million in her less than 3-year tenure. Hardly any other streamers come close in revenue to that, or to VTubers in general. As for growth, Gargura, the largest VTuber, gathered almost 3 million subscribers in less than a year. Meanwhile, the average subscriber count for HoloLive characters, the biggest VTuber company, is around 1 million. That's quite a noticeable number. It's because of this wide popularity that I decided to look more into the VTuber phenomenon. So whether you're a fan of these streamers, despise them, or aren't sure what to think, this video will have valuable insights for you. VTubers are, in a way, a fresh spin on something that was already around for years. The pretty female streamer, the e-girl. These streamers, while they sometimes have talent, mainly rely on their attractive looks to keep viewers watching. Most show skin or make sexual innuendos to get the attention of their primarily male audience. And make no mistake about it, the target audience for all of these streamers are young males. The majority of the audience of both e-girls and VTubers are males aged 18 to 34. The common e-girl relies on sex appeal so much that it's practically the only thing the popular ones do. Take Amaranth, for example. Many people have actually criticized streaming sites like Twitch for basically becoming online brothels where girls show skin for cash. It even got to the point earlier this year where Twitch had to crack down on so-called hot tub streams. If you don't know what a hot tub stream is, consider yourself lucky. It's essentially just a female streaming in a hot tub in their underwear. Yeah, unfortunately that's a thing. VTubers in several ways follow the e-girl trend, albeit with a fresh coat of anime paint. In terms of popularity though, VTubers may have already even surpassed their e-girl counterparts. Now it should be obvious at this point, but I'm not a fan of e-girl streamers. But when doing research on VTubers, I wanted to be fair, and some of them are decently talented. Some can sing, some can act, and some can put on entertaining personas. But despite these positives, we have have to address some serious issues under the surface of this whole thing. Let us begin by asking this. Why are VTubers in particular so popular? And what is the social environment that they've become so successful in? To understand this, we must first look at the characteristics of the men watching these streamers. They are, for the most part, the same audience who would watch an e-girl streamer. Single men under the age of 40. It turns out that today, there are more single men in this age demographic than ever before in modern history. Since around the 1970s, people in Western countries have been getting married later and later and later. This has been due to a combination of factors. The first and biggest is that religious and cultural values have drastically changed since the end of World War II. For example, since around the 1950s, most television and film media has promoted casual sex and not settling down until your 30s. Christianity stopped being promoted as the Western cultural norm, and thus the Christian values that promote chastity and monogamy declined with it. To do a comparison, in 1900, when Christianity had strong influence in Western media, the average American got married at 24 and had over 3 children. Today, with religion having almost no say in media or public affairs, the average American gets married at 32 and has less than 2 children. The rise of social media is of course another factor that has contributed to there being way more young, single men. People now primarily socialize online instead of in person, and this has predictably had a negative effect on the average person's social skills. This is because talking to someone online has an entirely different dynamic to talking to someone in person. Social media also combines this with the added effect of keeping people indoors. Finally, perhaps as a result of all the aforementioned factors, more women are choosing careers over families. To recap and put this all in layman's terms, the cultural movements of the last 60 years have left hundreds of millions of men behind with little to no romantic prospects. There were signs of this bubbling to the surface in the early 2010s with the rise of the incel and men going their own way movements. Pickup guru culture also increased to try to help young men find female partners. But it was all for naught. Young men today are still having less sex and getting married later than ever before. This study found that almost a third of men aged 18 to 24 in America are virgins, a large rise from the past. Not that there's anything wrong with being a virgin, but this does show that young people are no longer getting together. This drop isn't because men are becoming more stoic or more religious, which would actually be a good thing. No, what they're doing is replacing romance artificially. The biggest example of this is pornography use. In Japan, where VTubers are even more popular than America, all of these social trends are even worse. Huge portions of Japanese men report no interest in sex or romance at all. It is, after all, easier to just stay at home in your online happy place than go out and risk rejection in the romantic world. In the most extreme cases of this, we actually actually see products being made to let Japanese men marry a virtual anime wife. What's perhaps most shocking is that despite these clearly negative trends, neither the American nor the Japanese governments have done anything whatsoever to try to address the problem. Other governments, such as China and Russia, have at least made some efforts, such as banning pornography. China has even gone so far as limiting children's video game and social media access. And yes, I am praising something China did. Please increase my social credit score accordingly. Now, to be clear, women in the West aren't benefiting from any of these relationship trends either. Antidepressant use among females is at its highest levels in recorded history. Studies have also shown that women were significantly happier in past generations where cultures of early marriage, monogamy, and sexual chastity were promoted. In other words, no one is benefiting from this. Now, to tie all of this back to VTubers, this is where the concept of parasocial relationships becomes relevant. Due to the social conditions of the modern world, millions of men are grasping out for female attention to hold on to, and VTubers seem to be the latest edition of what they're flocking to. But sadly, it's an illusion. VTubers cannot replace a real woman. It's not Not just romantic feelings people are after either. Millennials and Gen Z lack companionship in general. 1 in 5 millennials reports having zero, yes zero, friends. Not zero close friends, zero friends, period. The numbers were slightly better for Gen Z, but still bad. And these surveys were conducted before the COVID-19 pandemic started. One can only imagine what that landscape looks like now. From this, we can glean that VTubers are not only filling the role of a romantic interest for many men, but also the role of simply a friend. What's perhaps most disturbing about the entire VTuber phenomenon is that these girls and the companies behind them know most of these men are struggling, and they're cashing in on it. They know their viewer struggles, they know they're feeling pain, and behind their artificial digital faces, they're laughing at them. They're laughing at them all the way to the bank. Most VTubers consistently use sex and sex appeal to squeeze even more money out of their lonely male audience. The streams of Iron Mouse, one of the largest English-speaking VTubers, begin with an animation of her character's virtual boobs jiggling. This is a common trend among English-speaking VTubers. Hololive, the largest Japanese VTuber company, fits many of its characters with similar giant bouncing boobs. Meanwhile, VTubers who don't have these attachments still often make sexual suggestions to their audience or promote fan art that is sexual in nature. Yes, even Gargura, the childlike character I mentioned earlier. It only takes browsing many of these streamers' Twitter feeds to see how sexual and degenerate they are in order to get clicks and views. Keep in mind these women are also aware that there are minors in their audience. They don't care. Now some might say, Pax, don't you defend anime as a genre? Yes, I have. But unlike many creators, I also don't hold back from criticizing degenerate animes. VTubers and anime are also not equivalent. If anything, VTubers are a ripoff of anime. While we can draw some similarities in how the VTuber industry and the anime industry often profit off of people's loneliness, there are differences between the two. I find anime to be far more artistic and less exploitative than the VTuber phenomenon. Many animes have heart and soul poured into them that you won't see in many other places. Thus, to imply that VTubers and anime are equivalent is wrong-headed. Now, to extend an olive branch somewhat, we should know that there are some exceptions to all of these trends, and some VTubers do make an effort not to be degenerate. From my research, Hololive is a mixed bag, VShoujo is horrendous, and independent VTubers could be anywhere. Unfortunately, in a capitalistic system where the only real thing society values is making money, people have little incentive to live by moral rules. This culture of valuing money over morality is precisely how the porn industry was able to grow from banned underground splinters into one of the largest online businesses. It's not a coincidence that today it's anti-capitalist countries who've cracked down on pornography and other types of sexual exploitation. But back to VTubers. While I welcome a decline in female streamers, as they're in many ways worse than VTubers, in other ways, VTubers are even more detached from reality. While female streamers are limited by things such as real-life boyfriends, the effects of age, and all the other problems that come with being a real human, VTubers are not. VTubers take on personas that will be forever young and single, and thus much more able to consistently enchant male viewers. There are other noticeable VTuber behaviors that are detached from reality, such as imitating common anime tropes and speaking in childish voices.
ちょっと待って。深呼吸。深呼吸。どうしよう。I'm so nervous right now. やだ。
They're fictional personas imitating fictional characters. And some of the noises these VTubers make is just... One trend I've noticed among some English-speaking VTubers is that their only sense of comedy is constant sex jokes, and some of these jokes get really bad.
I remembered, so
I was on
put the
birth
aubergines
control
in
for like
10
2
minutes, and I'm going to
months.
put
And
fried
when I got
potatoes
off of
as well,
it, and I got my
hopefully
first
everything
period,
should go
I wasn't
fine.
like
I know you're
bleeding,
going to say,
right?
oh, don't do
And
that,
after
but
like 3 days,
I'm going to put
I
the
straight up birthed out like
potatoes
my entire fucking
pan,
like
and I'm going to-
vagina skin, like. All of it at once.
Some of these VTubers even encourage their audience to masturbate.
Jack off in front of the window. So this way, it will improve your mental and physical health at an optimal rate. And you just need to do this for a half an hour a day? How was your third day of non-stop nut? November. Have you guys got your biggest nut yet?
Ah yes, nothing says humor like encouraging your audience's porn addiction. Through their use of fictional persona, VTubers are also able to hide many of their characteristics that would probably make large parts of their audience disgusted. For example, some of these women are 30 to 40 years old. Some are divorced. And some, well, some aren't even female. Some are transgender, while others are literally self-described cross-dressers using voice-modifying software. And before someone says, well, no one watches that, this one has over 90,000 subscribers. Now we can probably conclude that VTubers are more of a symptom of a wider cultural rot than any kind of cause. We could almost say that VTubers are the opium of single males. These girls, if you could call them that, are a product, and while a product may entertain you, it can never fill the void in your soul. If a man does not know to what port he is sailing, no wind is favorable. Seneca. I think the most important thing I'd like people to get from this video isn't that all VTubers are evil, or that all of their viewers are simps who give them their entire bank accounts. Neither of those things is the case. Furthermore, there's not even anything inherently wrong with people using a virtual avatar to represent themselves. But what people should understand is that the rise of VTubers does have its dark side. They've profited off of the serious problems with modern culture while exacerbating them in the process. If our current world wasn't as flawed as it was, these girls would not have as much popularity as they currently do. We need to be on alert against those who would exploit us for their own benefit, no matter how cute they may appear. The fact is that while fictional connections with fictional characters can sometimes comfort us, we should always remember that at the end of the day, we must live in the real world. We must face reality for our own good. By doing so, we can improve it. And by fixing the problems in our own world, we reduce the need to retreat into false alternative ones. Time in this life is fleeting and precious, and we should use it wisely. I'm sure I speak for many when I say that I wish there was more media that promoted wisdom and good moral values. I've made this video because I see a lot of people hurting in our modern world. And hey, we were warned about this kind of stuff. It's my sincere hope that everything I've presented here can help in what ways it can. But what do you think? Was I too easy on VTubers? Was I too hard on them? Or did I get the fairness just right? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell. It really helps me to make more. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.